Wonderful. I think that's us live, Scott. So thank you, everybody who has signed up for this LinkedIn Live session with myself, Scott Dudley Jones. I'm Will from Thrive, obviously, but I'm not the main event today. Scott is the main event. So, Scott, if you want to quickly introduce yourself, and then we can sort of dive right into this.
Yeah, sure, Will. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Scott. I'm one of the L&D specialists, learning and development specialists at Interpath Advisory. Been working at Interpath Advisory since May, and my main focus has been on implementing Thrive, and our platform is called Interlearn at Interpath. I've been in the L&D sector, I've been an L&D specialist, should I say, for around 15 years, moving from L&D into personal training and then back into L&D and working across the corporate space, retail sector, finance sector. I've done it all.
Amazing. I'm learning stuff already. I did not know that you were in the personal training space. So every day's a school day, and we're only 1 minute in. Awesome. Well, yeah, for those who have joined today, generally just going to be having a bit of a conversation with Scott around how they've implemented Thrive across the organization. They've got some great engagement in the little time that they've been live. So we're going to be chatting about some of the ways that they've been doing that, and hopefully share some helpful hints and tips for anybody else that might be implementing or just utilizing an LMS at the moment. We're also going to be chatting about other things in terms of how they're leveraging the CPD functionality within Thrive and how that's gone down really well with their staff, and some future plans as well. But as ever, I'm going to start off with some icebreaker questions for you, Scott. And the first one I have for you is, if you could instantly master any skill, so whether it's work-related or just completely random, what skill would that be?
For me, and I think it's an age thing as well, is the art of not overthinking. As I've got older, I'm literally overthinking about everything at the moment. And I know you can meditate, and trying to find time to meditate or go to yoga. I'll send it, for example, I'll send an email out to somebody and I'll replay the types of replies. I'll get back about 5 different replies, and it'll come back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's an age thing, if it's just the work environment, everything's so busy, everything's going on. But yeah, it's the art of not overthinking. And I'm sure some people will share some stuff with me at some point about how to work on that.
Yeah, no, any insights for Scott in the comments would be welcome. That's a good one. Good shout. The next question I've got for you: what's the most memorable piece of advice you think you've received in your career of your 15 years in L&D?
I think there's two. The first one is think before you speak, which I've not quite mastered as of yet. And I think
make sure you do that on today's session.
Yeah, I know. And I think the second one is it's not what you know, but it's who you know. There's been plenty of opportunities across my career where, from networking and getting to know, and even actually getting to know Thrive actually with my current job, from actually getting to know and building my networks and those relationships, it's actually helped me get into a past job opportunity. And that was the same with Thrive as well, with my current role, through implementing another project in another company, by getting to know Thrive. And then for a recommendation, I got into Interpath, and that recommendation was made to my current manager.
Amazing, great to know. And Debbie from Thrive's already commented saying you're not alone, Scott, and I think that was on the new skill. So yeah, being well received. Final icebreaker: if you could pick any famous person from history or from today to give a guest training session at Interpath, who would that be?
I had a good think about this. First of all, I'm quite into my history, especially the royals and like Queen Victoria. But I thought, no, actually, I wouldn't. I'd love to go back in time and actually be a footman, in one of the rooms just to listen to the conversations. But I think actually, I think Deborah Meaden, actually, big fan of Dragon's Den. And I could picture myself with Deborah having a glass of wine and just having a good old conversation about different things. But I think she just comes across as very credible, her knowledge, her experience. But I love the work that she does with, animal welfare and the sustainability piece, to kind of match, align to my values as well. So I think definitely Deborah Meaden, but I'd have her come in kind of as a guest speaker, more than me delivering to her. And maybe, as I said, maybe kind of tap into some of her thoughts and insights on leadership.
Good shout. Okay, cool. Not too far away, really. I think maybe next year's Thrive Live, we could try and see if we can get Deborah Meaden on stage, and we could get you meeting her tonight.
If anyone can make that happen, I'd love to have that glass of wine. So please.
Awesome, wonderful. Well, we'll jump into some more serious questions now. If anybody does have any questions while we're going through this for Scott, please do come into the comments and let us know. We'll try and tackle them as and when they come in. If not, we can tackle them all at the end. So why don't we start from the start? You joined Interpath when they had actually already decided to take Thrive on board. So you didn't have a choice in the matter. We were going to be implemented, whether you liked it or not. So I guess, yeah, could you just talk us through the sort of initial stages of implementing Thrive, Scott?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I missed out the fun part, really, the market research, but obviously I knew Thrive already from a past project. Diane had already completed the supplier selection process, and that's where that recommendation came through, actually, when Diane was speaking to yourself, I think, and Shane as well, about kind of, is there anybody in your network that could help could come on board and implement the project? So when I started, I was starting right from deployment, really, with the project. So that was when the kind of the insight and the discovery sessions were just about to start. The requirements had all been completed already, so I just had a quick check over that, just to familiarize myself with what the requirements were. But I was keen to look at actually what the big hooks were. From working when Diane was putting the requirements document together, is kind of the working group she formed as well from the business. What were those key requirements? What were those hook points as well? Because I'll talk about this later on, those hook points have really helped with the adoption of the platform and the engagement piece. So yeah, as I said, that from that point on, as we went into the sort of the insights and the discovery sessions, and kind of just built on from that. So the journey was actually quite smooth compared to previous projects that I've worked on before. I think there's two parts to play in that as well. Obviously, Thrive from your side, a strong project management team was assigned. So working with Stacey and Dom, just say a quick hello to them too. But also on the Interpath side as well, it was a smaller organization. And when you've got a smaller organization, sometimes it is a little bit smoother from an infrastructure point of view. And we also had a strong working group helping with the project, a strong IT team as well. So I kept very close to them. And then the working group as well that Diane formed to help out with the project.
Amazing. And you very kindly mentioned that it was a relatively smooth process, which is always good. But can you think of any bumps in the road or challenges that you sort of experienced along the way on Thrive side or your side or anything, and how you overcame them at all?
Yeah, I know you've paid me £20 to say this, but no, there wasn't actually, and I don't want to kind of, I've managed a couple of projects now, and comparing the two projects together, it did go pretty smoothly, and that was down to communication, the weekly calls that were clear in the diary. Again, even looking at the project documents as well that Stacey helped put together, and Dom helped with that as well. Yeah, I can't think of any. I don't want to sound like it was just perfect, but it did actually run quite smoothly, and our launch day was actually brought forward as well. So we launched on the 19th of August, like a soft launch, and then did a big bang launch on the 2nd of September, and we had an extra 2 weeks of buffer time before that launch time to continue with user testing as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd like to say there was, but there actually wasn't.
Look, you used the word perfect. It didn't come out of my mouth. So if marketing just want to clip that up, then that's absolutely fine. Okay, nice. Well, and if we think about, I mean, when you're implementing a learning platform, there's so many different features that a platform can do, and there's loads of different sort of use cases. So how did you sort of figure out the sort of key features that you wanted to use for go live when you're sort of looking at all of these different features or use cases that you could do? How did you identify the key ones?
Yeah, and it goes back to the requirements documents that Diane put together. The key thing was CPD. The majority of the roles at Interpath are required to submit CPD evidence. We've just finished the end of the CPD year, which was the end of October. So that was kind of, I mentioned before about that hook, and that has been such a key hook. The second one was with Salesforce. So we implemented Salesforce back in June time, and there's been around 200 pieces of content that was created in the old learning platform that had to come across into the new platform as well. and that is around kind of user guides, how to use Salesforce. So we knew there was a big demand that stuff has got to come across, and it's got to be a smooth journey, and people can find it straight away. So, for example, that was put on our homepage on our new learning platform. So it's getting those hooks. I think a good thing to remember as well is if you do have time. So is a luxury basically. If you can decide when you launch your platform, that's great. 2 projects I've worked on, it's not always been that situation, because usually when you're renewing your learning platform, it's due to the expiry date on it, so you don't get a choice. But if you do have a choice around time, then take a look at your activity across the year. I think because when we went live and it was coming to the end of the CPD year, everybody was, and obviously people kind of rummage around, they're trying to get the CPD evidence together. So they are going to the learning platform to get that evidence from there, and that drove a lot of the traffic into the platform. And then, of course, as I mentioned about the Salesforce content as well, that smooth transition onto the new platform, getting the hands onto those user guides and how to use Salesforce, especially as the adoption rate on Salesforce as well, the kind of 2 platform adoption rates, working on the 2 at the same time, trying to improve that one as well. Those user guides were really helping them get to know Salesforce and get them to move around, which doesn't impact their work then. So
Nice. Okay, cool. So yeah, just having clear visibility of what are the key objectives that you're trying to achieve with this go live first, and then build the system around that. Then I guess once you've done those things, you can then move on to the next initiatives and the next initiatives, and grow it from there. Nice. And it's kind of similar to another question I asked, but just a final sort of wrap up the implementation questions. Is there anything that, if you were to look back over the implementation process, would you do something differently? Would you change the way that you approached anything at all?
no, when I got on board, it would have been nice to actually have gone back into, or got on board, during the RFP, the supplier selection, really. But that's just the way it was, really. Just so I could get, input more into the requirements piece. But actually, as I said, Diane did a great job, in the working group that was established for us did a great job with
Yeah.
defining those requirements and getting those, those key hooks. So no, it's just, as I said, it would have been nice to be on the journey a little bit earlier.
No worries at all. Okay, wonderful. So yeah, it's given us a good insight into sort of your implementation process, and of course you went then live around August time, as you mentioned. And since then, you've seen some really good engagement and some really good traffic on the platform. So yeah, if you could just talk to us a little bit around some of the strategies that you've implemented, or some of the sort of content types that you've pushed out that have been the most effective across all of your learners.
Yeah, so the first one, I've mentioned a couple of those key hooks. So the CPD feature, having that kind of switched on, doing a bit of work with that as well around categorization, which is just around audiences, really, is because the different roles in Interpath, you are required to submit certain 20 or 30 verifiable hours. So it's just helping the business categorize and setting up the CPD feature to get the traffic through, so that people are using it. Salesforce have talked about already around kind of just making sure that it's situated in an easy place for them to access, to help with that transition.
Mhm.
The biz I've been extremely busy though, because because they're so engaged with the platform, and at Interpath, everybody in the different business departments have actually been running their own pieces of training as well. So we do a lot of lunch learns, or espresso type sessions, as we call them.
Mhm.
So the business have actually been reaching out to me to say, I want a specific section in InterLearn, for example, and you'll see them on the Explore page. I'd like to have this section. I'd like it to own it. I'd like to build it out. And I've been going, that's great. We've got a small team here. If I can upskill you as a super user, if you want to own your area and your site, then please do. So I've been running a lot of, sorry, excuse me, a lot of demos on actually, I've given them the certain permissions and just how to create these tiles, and how to, add the tags, the interest tags, and get them just kind of owning their areas. And a lot of them have, they've ran off, they've owned their areas, they're filling it with great content. And I'm just working on now, like tweaking that, and cleaning it up a little bit as well, adding some guidance to it. But yeah, I think that's the key thing
Amazing.
is, yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, one of my follow-up questions was sort of like, what is your approach to content creation, and how are you sort of getting that knowledge from within the business? But yeah, it sounds like you're actually finding the experts rather than you sort of doing everything and waiting for people to come to you. You're finding the experts within the business, giving them the permissions on the platform, and almost sort of trusting them to just say, look, you're the expert in this content item or this subject. Why don't you go and post about it?
Yeah, exactly. We've actually got more technical content than kind of interpersonal content. A lot of our kind of soft skills training came from Thrive. But actually, if I look at the content and the engagement on the content, a lot of it at the moment is on the technical content, and that is all, as I said, owned by the business, and they're very passionate about creating that. What I'm doing, what Diane is doing currently, is just basically putting our expertise across that as well, to look at a presentation and obviously applying those L&D advice across that to say how to present better, don't do death by PowerPoint, how, if it is a virtual session, if you're doing it on Teams, how to get engagement, those kind of things. So we've just been dropping our L&D kind of expertise across the top of it, but the main content, the main development of the content and the ownership of it, has been driven by the business.
Nice, that's amazing. And I've just jumped back to your homepage here. I think it'd be really useful if you could just briefly talk us through some of the initiatives that you're running on the homepage at the moment, and maybe why they're important at the minute, really.
Yeah, so you can see on the homepage here, this is probably the most recent compliance training that's gone out from information security. So we launched this as an assignment last week. I again took a look at that and thought the notifications have gone out by email. We know from an engagement point of view of mandatory training, people don't always react to that. So how else can we get the kind of the advertised? So we took a look at the campaign banner. So we've got this up just for the month. Again, it's just so that people, when they log in straight away on the homepage, it's something that they see straight away. They can see their essential training anyway, but again, that's a big image, and that hopefully will prompt them to go into their e-learning and complete it. What we wanted as well is, as you can see further down here, is we put a kind of series of guides and videos together on how to use the platform. I'm still running actually demos and events at the moment, and I've broken it down into the different features. So for performance managers and managers, I'm running some events in December time on actually how to use the platform and get the most of it to help with your teams. We had some guides that we stole off Thrive. Obviously, you gave us permission to. We sent them through. We sent them through to our marketing team just so that they could brand it, and those guides are on there as well now, published. And then you'll see just kind of going down on the homepage as well, kind of those tailored content to the user based on the interests they're putting into the platform on the profile. And then, of course, I've mentioned several times Salesforce as well, and that from the project team, the Salesforce project team, they wanted it on the homepage just so that people aren't kind of getting lost on the platform and they can get into that learning when they need to.
Nice. Okay. And tell us a little bit more about this. So Salesforce obviously is a new system that you've implemented prior to Thrive, I believe.
Yeah.
So
June.
this is brilliant. So this is sort of learning pathways to help upskill people on how to use the system, how to videos and guides and anything like that, just so they're fully up to speed, or if they need initial onboarding, or if they need to come back to it for future knowledge. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. It's basically it's a master pathway with smaller pathways inside, and the smaller pathways are just acted as kind of those, I suppose, like a little bit like a folder structure, but kind of the different categories with the related content connected to those categories, and they're actually all in. The good thing about putting them into a master pathway as well, they're actually supposed to be in a specific order as well, so we were able to set them up in that way.
Okay, wonderful, brilliant. And in terms of all of this content that you sort of pushed out, have there been any sort of particular themes or content items? I know you mentioned there's a lot of technical content, but there's also some social, some softer skills content. What type or style of content do you think's been better received across the learners, do you think?
From a topic point of view, because we've got the inclusive networks, and I've actually set up a collabs group for the inclusive networks using the collabs feature, just so I can tag all their content, especially the content that Thrive provided as well. We've noticed actually there's a key topic which is around neurodiversity, and the networks obviously weren't aware of neurodiversity as being a key topic, but obviously then creating a collabs group, tagging all their content and then going into that engagement piece around activity, they got that piece of insight, and it was like, okay, that's it, very interesting to see that that's what our workforce is interested in at the moment, and they've taken that away, and they're looking at kind of a campaign around neurodiversity, well-being, etc., to work on that. And when we come up to our next quarterly review with Thrive as well, we'll certainly be looking at that type of content and getting more of that into the system. I think that's probably one of the biggest insights, just in related with the soft skills training. From a technical point of view, a lot of the stuff that's going into the system at the moment is actually recorded Teams lunch and learns. They're getting put into the platform. Because again, what we're doing as well with the CPD feature is people attending in person and virtual, they'll get the CPD evidence on that. But also if they've not made it and they, access one of the videos as well, we're working with compliance and legal. And actually, if they watch one of the videos as well from start to end, that goes towards their CPD evidence as well. And yeah, as you can imagine, when we got to the end of the CPD year, there was a lot of drive of people just going in there trying to get, access view and to build up those additional hours ready for submission.
Nice. Okay. And let's sort of talk a little bit more, move on to sort of that CPD tracking and how you're using the platform for that. Because you said that was one of the big contributors to sort of some of the engagement. So yeah, just tell us a little bit more about how why you use the platform to sort of track that CPD.
Yeah, it's to help our legal risk and compliance training team. Actually, they govern the CPD at Interpath, and two of them were actually part of the working group to help implement the platform. So they were very much inputting into what we should have and what we shouldn't have, and obviously CPD was top of that list, and I think they really pushed hard for that. The goal at some point as well with CPD is to, I suppose, because everyone before InterLearn, everybody was recording CPD into their own personal Excel documents. There was no visibility, even from a line manager point of view, there was no visibility on where they were in the year around hours and submission. What the feature has allowed is we've got a central place for everybody to put their CPD hours into it. We're working on, I know I'm working with Thrive at the moment on the roadmap with reporting on CPD. But that's something we're going to be taking a look at it. Also, though, when I'm doing these sessions with managers around, how when they're on the platform and looking at their individual team members in the dashboard, they have the option now as part of that kind of one-to-one conversation or career conversation or performance management conversation. They can actually sit down with their individual and say, look, I can see your CPD record. You've only submitted 2 hours and we're 2 months away from the final submission. So it's allowing that additional visibility and the ownership of it as well to sit with the manager and to sit with the individual to manage their own CPD and to have those types of conversations. It's just been a great place to centralize everything and get that data starting to go into the one place so we can track it better.
Brilliant. So learners have full visibility of it, but also managers can see that and they can become a little bit more proactive around managing that CPD journey.
Yeah, correct.
Did you face any challenges around that at all? I mean, if any other organizations or anyone else listening who's implementing CPD or trying to digitize CPD at the moment, could you share any feedback at all? Or
yeah, the biggest challenge, and it has been a bit of a headache when you're moving from one learning platform to a new learning platform, is around the records of prior learning. Obviously, when you are looking at cleaning up your data and what's going to be transferred across, you then take a look at the records of prior learning getting transferred across as well. If you're not transferring all content across from your old platform to the new platform, if you are doing CPD, people might start asking a lot of questions around, well, I completed this on the old platform, but it's not in the new platform. We had so many emails about missing content because we didn't bring it across because the quality of the content wasn't great. And obviously the record didn't come across either. So really it was more to do with the migration of data. We probably had the biggest headache with records not being up to date. Also data quality as well. With the last platform we used, for example, the quality of data wasn't that great. So things around, durations, when they completed a piece of training, that duration data was missing as well. So obviously when we're looking about CPD hours, they just didn't have that duration data to help with that. So that was the biggest piece.
Fair enough.
The other one was categorization as well. Again, different roles, different responsibilities. At Interpath, as I mentioned before, it's usually 20 verifiable hours or 30 verifiable hours. But we've got around that by, I've set up a categorization. So on this screen here, you can't see it on this one because the setup's not there because it's their audience groups that I've set up. But it's allowed me to put in a drop-down box on this page. So category 1, which is 20, or category 2, which is 30, and the user can select which one is relevant to them. takes the
brilliant.
responsibility off me and puts it onto them, because everyone should be responsible for their own hours anyway. So
Okay, cool. So give them the choice. Yeah, that sounds great. And yeah, to your first point, the last thing you want is learners knocking on your door saying, "I've already done this content. Why can't
yeah,
why has it not
exactly.
been added to my film?" Fair enough. Brilliant. All righty. And I guess the next thing that we want to, I'd love to have a chat to you about is some of your future plans for Thrive, and understand that you're going to be sort of digitizing your sort of competency framework. So talk to us a little bit about what you've been doing in sort of that area so far.
Yeah, so it goes into two parts actually. So I'll talk about the competency, and then we can talk about skills as well, because they link quite nicely together. So we're quite a new team and a new people team. So this year we've created a brand new competency framework, probably a global competency framework. It's not technical specific; it's at a top level. It was created originally on a PDF document, as most of them sometimes are, and you look at it and you're thinking, from a wow factor point of view, we can do better on this. So what I've been doing is kind of, I'll talk about this as well. This is what I've been doing over the last 2 months, is taking a look at different things, even if it's not learning content. It's actually look at the features and how can InterLearn actually maybe improve this. So one of the things was the competency frameworks. I thought, how about we take that, we digitalize it, and we put it into InterLearn. From a, what's the right word for it, trying to read it from a visibility point of view, it
Mm,
looks a lot cleaner and smoother in the platform. What we can do as well with the competency framework, once it's in the platform, this is a future thing. We're not, obviously at the moment we're not doing goals into Learn. Our goals, our settings have been put into another platform. Future look will be hopefully get them all into
mm,
Learn. But what we'd like to do is get those competencies into Learn, have them as a skill set as well, and get them skill tagged. But also,
mm,
if people are starting to use the goals, and starting to put goals into Learn as well, you can start to tag that competency into that goal, have that conversation with your manager or performance manager, and it links it all nicely together. What I liked as well with the competencies going into Learn is when you've got that linked content option on the right hand side,
mhm,
I can start to link content that is relevant to that competency, so people can read that competency, see if they if they're in a specific grade, and see what then content can help them to achieve that competency. And they can see on the right hand side then content that's linked to it. We've got a bit of a journey to go with it, because we've got to get the right content into the system, and then also get the
mhm.
tagging working correctly as well. But that's kind of the future look of it, just to link everything together. Um,
Brilliant.
the second piece, if you want me to jump into the skills piece quickly, um,
Yeah, sure.
another opportunity that's come about. We don't currently have a resource platform. I know the company is looking to get one at some point. So we're looking at a solution that will help with that. So, for example, if we've got specific client work going on and the client asks for a certain skill set, we've got no system at the moment for for someone to go into the system to see who's got that skill. I know there's a lot of CVs and on file somewhere. What we're doing is we're taking the data, and this is being allowed through an API that's been set up between Thrive and our Power BI software. We've just built a Power BI dashboard, just based on the skills that are again put into InterLearn, still been designed, and that dashboard's going to be put onto our intranet page. So if anyone in the business is looking for a certain skill set, they can go into the intranet page, type it into the dashboard, and they can see, for example, Scott's got project management. Great, let's get him. Let's reach out to him. Can you work on this project? So that's just kind of something that's it's in the pipeline. It's actually going to complete in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and it's just a
Mhm.
quick solution. And again, it's just using InterLearn to act as a plaster, I suppose, to help with that piece.
Amazing. So you're going to be highlighting the skills and competencies you want people to be working towards, detailing their skill levels in those particular areas, and then surfacing that information on your intranet via Power BI, so other people can just sort of maybe find people for the relevant roles.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's the one. Yeah.
And why don't we have a quick look at, because I know that you've done a lot of work on this, on the learning pathway, to sort of visualize the sort of competency framework in a learning pathway, haven't you? So this is what it's like at the moment. Again, you want to eventually get that into the skills functionality, but why don't you talk us through this pathway that you've sort of created?
Yeah, we've created them as two different views because I originally created this one here, which was by grade view. So as someone
Hmm.
who's, for example, I need my glasses to see that, but I should know what they are by the images. I only put the images on yesterday. So if I go into, so say for example, assistant manager, I can pop into assistant manager.
Hmm.
And then inside assistant manager, you've got each of the competencies and actually the descriptions that the description that is relevant to me as an assistant manager. I can then, set up that time with my manager and that conversation with Diane, for example, and talk about actually how we're going to achieve this. What are the key things we're going to work on? And then I mentioned before around the good thing about having the competency in InterLearn is when you've got that linked content on the right hand side.
Yeah,
Again, I can flick into that quickly just to make sure it is relevant to me, but it's just saving that time as well. I've got a competency in front of me. I've got linked content there nice and quickly. Okay. I'm also in that conversation with my manager as well. It's all linking together quite nicely and saving me a lot of time than searching, etc. So yeah, so
brilliant.
that's the grade view as well is I can go to the grade which is next to my grade, for example, so manager, for example, and I can go into the manager view and just have a look at what those key competencies are that maybe I want to work towards to help me with that promotion piece. So that was the
Brilliant.
first view, which is the one you're looking at currently. I also created a second view, which was actually by competency. So you can see these are actually more competency top line. And what you can do is you can go into that competency and then you see the grades inside the competency. So two different types of views just to play around with. I did ask the business which view they preferred, and they obviously came back and said half of them liked that view and the other half liked the competency view. So I thought, I'm just going to keep them both in the platform for now.
Yeah,
If they work
that's
for you, that's the
brilliant.
main thing. If it works and it drives people into it, whichever one they're going to go into, then that's a tick for me.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, yeah, anything that's better than Excel or paper, and
Mm,
you've sort of digitized it, then that's got to be some sort of improvement, right?
yeah,
So, oh,
exactly,
brilliant,
exactly.
awesome. Thank you for that. Well, I'll stop sharing now, and we can sort of have a chat about a couple of the questions. You mentioned that sort of the next role of the platform could help you identify sort of potential sort of skill gaps and skill people across the organization. But what other sort of things do you see the platform evolving into in the future as you're sort of continuing to use the platform?
I'm just trying to think of the stuff that I know of that are on the roadmap for us. Onboarding, a lot of people are actually ahead of the game with onboarding, but actually at Interpath, it's something that we need to improve. So onboarding is a project that's kicking off next week. And part of that, and Interlearn will play a massive part of that with having the onboarding, especially like resource content and a pathway created with it inside it. Um, so that's kind of a project that's starting next week that I'm working on. The skills piece, we're literally just scratching the surface on that. We're just using it at the moment, to help with resourcing. Well, we can do so much with that. But I mentioned before around kind of some of our stuff at the moment goes on in a different people platform. As part of a bigger conversation, we'll take a look at how we can, at some point, get everything into Interlearn so it nicely connects like
Mm.
skills, goal setting, content. I think I didn't mention this before. Some of the things that what I've been looking at with the platform from an adoption point of view is to drive people into the platform, not to just think about content. I know, Will, when we were chatting the other day about this, is we want so much now out of our products, don't we, that we purchase. Like back in the day when you bought your first car, you just wanted it to get you from A to B. For example, I remember my first Fiesta.
Mm.
I had a cassette player in there and a tractor stick. But I'm so happy for it to get me to A to B. But now we want what? We want wireless connections. We want coffee to be made inside the car and all that. If the salesman of a car tried to sell you just on it can get you to A to B, you just wouldn't get in the car. And that's how you've got to look at the
Yeah.
platform as well is what can it do? How can I get the business using this? For example, we've just set up a quiz in the platform. Sorry, I've just set up a quiz within the platform that people will, participate in, and if they pass it, they get accredited in a certain qualification, which they get, certain, I think it's a license or something, etc. It's just looking at different opportunities that's not always focused on content, but what can the platform do to help a process, improve a process, because I think those initial kind of 3 to 6 months, you just want to get traffic into the platform. So you've got to look at how you can get the traffic into the platform as well. And even if that's just somebody going to complete an accreditation quiz in the platform, they're still in the platform. It's like when you go to the shop to buy milk, you end up with a big bag of shopping. That's the goal. Get them in there even to complete a quiz. Oh, they've seen something there. They've gone into that. So it's just thinking outside the box, and it's not just all about content. Is what the platform can do from a feature point of view. And even if it is a boring thing like an accreditation quiz, it's still a quiz, and it's still getting people in there to access it. We've got 40 people that need to, to complete this quiz. That's 40 people going into the platform over the next 30 days to complete it. So
yeah, it's development nonetheless. And like you say,
yeah.
once they're in there, there'll be recommended content. They could sort of tag other people in. They might want to share something with other people. So it helps drive that engagement across the company, which is really cool. Nice. And if you sort of have a think about future trends in learning and development, what are you most excited about? Whether it's what Thrive are offering or not, and how is that going to potentially help you at Interpath?
I've been thinking about this actually. I think as an L&D specialist, I need to get better on this as well. So anybody in the group, just please reach out to me. Let's have some coffee catch-ups. I think definitely in the digital space, obviously everyone's diving deep into the digital space at the moment. We've been thrown in the deep end with digital. The AI, I've read about this the other day. The use of AI and the words of AI has been chucked about quite a lot as well. Keen to see where that actually goes to. But yeah, I can't actually think.
That's okay.
Yeah. I'm too busy with my head in Interlearn at the moment with adoption.
I know, right?
I'm not even looking at the future that far ahead yet.
Let's just concentrate on the here
That's
and now.
why I overthink quite a lot.
Scott, you're being more present, and that's all we can ask for. Cool. Well, if we're just going to wrap up with a couple of sort of closing questions, again, if anyone's got any comments, there's one I'm going to ask in a second. But sort of like reflecting back on everything, what sort of surprised you most about your team's engagement and response to Thrive once it had been implemented?
Yeah, from a team's engagement point of view, it's just people wanting to use the platform and reaching out to me to the point where I was like, "Whoa, I've got capacity to deal with all this." But it was just really nice to see, and people, because my team is just myself and Diane. We are a small team. To have people reach out to me who are excited about the platform. Remember I was saying before that the business want to own and they want to have different spaces in that a tile on the explore page. To have them reach out to me and say, I want to own it. I want to own my content. I want to be able to build it and create it. Can you teach me how to use the platform? You don't get that a lot. Can you teach me how to be a super user so I can, use the platform? So I think that's been a key thing for me, because then it's just helped me become more of a product owner of the platform and have, you talk about the future look and how can we, improve a process. It's just helped me focus more on that and less on the administration by saying, I'll train you how to use the platform. Here you go, and off you go. So I think it's just the engagement with the excitement of people actually wanting to use it and become super users and upload their own content on there. I think that's been the standing out point for me.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's the dream, isn't it? Like getting people across the business to actually coming to you and saying, I want to be able to do this. I'm an expert. Can I share that? So that's really cool.
I might make myself redundant at some point with that, but
yeah, you'll be maybe that'd be a sort of a sad happy day, because you've climbed to the top of the mountain, but now you've got to go all the way back down again. The question in the chat is around how a digital learning platforms change the sort of culture or the learning culture within the organization. And again, I know that you've not had Thrive long, but how have you seen any change in the sort of culture or the approach to learning since implementing Thrive?
Yeah, what I've seen personally is because the last platform that we had, the engagement wasn't, that high on it. People were actually just going off into pockets of the business and doing their own thing and actually not using the learning platform. So that's why I was saying about the data quality wasn't that great as well. And what I suppose we're mopping up currently is we're trying to reinsure people actually to come back to the learning platform and get your content on it. So I said, we're getting a lot of people now at that stage where they're really excited about it and they want to build their own space. We're still finding pockets of the business are doing their own thing, and we're saying to them, come let's centralize this. Let's keep centralizing it. Is your content just for your department? I don't think it is. Let's get it onto the platform. Let's share it out. So I think it's just giving people confidence with the platform, especially if they've had a bad experience using an existing platform, for example. So yeah, it's around kind of just one top tip from me is gate crash as many meetings as you possibly can with your new digital platform. And that's actually pre-launch and post-launch. We did a lot of road shows, but every time we were on a call about a different topic, we'd mention it and just say, can we jump into your town hall? And I'm still getting invites now. Scott, we've got a meeting on the 10th of December. Can you come along? Can you jump along? And jump into the call. Can you talk about Interlearn and kind of the recent things you've been worked on as well? So try and gate crash as many meetings, team meetings, town halls as you can, just to talk about the platform and just provide a demo.
Brilliant.
I didn't quite answer the question.
No, it's a good response nonetheless, and it actually kind of answers a question that Debbie's just asked in the chat. So she said, working with your SMEs is essential to success, which we completely agree with. What hooks have you used to encourage that initial engagement and then getting them to own their own content? So you kind of mentioned gate crash as many meetings and get it in front of as many people as possible. But yeah, anything to add to that? What did you do to get those people to want to add content to Thrive, or did they just naturally come to you?
I'm not sure how the working group was formed originally, because Diane formed it. But if I look back on who was part of that working group, I mentioned compliance, for example, getting the right people involved, think about the hearts and minds piece, and also, those pain points and how to make their life a lot easier. I think with a lot of learning platforms, sometimes the business think it's a HR platform or it's a learning platform. It's actually a platform for everybody. It's not my platform. I wouldn't want it. Sorry, the ownership of it. But it's just kind of, this platform just keep going out with the message. This platform is for you. It's going to make your life a lot easier. CPD, I mentioned that big hook before. The next year, this new fresh CPD year, it's going to make your life a lot easier with tracking your CPD, so that when we get to the 31st of October 2025, you're going to have all your evidence in one place. You're not going to have to get all your Excel documents out, and also every single piece of training, because we're going to have good quality training in the platform as well, is going to be in there and verifiable as well. So again, I think when you're working with your stakeholders at that initial stage, is to talk about kind of we need you to help us. This platform is for you, it's not for us. Tell us about your pain points. How can this platform improve your life on a daily basis? So it's just kind of understanding just kind of their pain points.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, look, thank you very much for that, Scott. We're coming to the end of the session now. If anyone does have any final questions, please do pop them in now. But my sort of closing question to you, as it were, Scott, would be if you could just choose one practical tip to share with L&D professionals who are looking to increase engagement on their learning platform, what would that one key tip be from you?
I've already mentioned it. It's just do a thorough requirements document. Think minds and hearts. Put yourself in their shoes and what are the benefits of implementing a new learning platform, for example, and just really listening to the business, and don't do it alone. You need the business involved with this, and you need them part of it. You need to get them into a working group as well. It just be, as I said, really get the business owning the project, and just step away from it. It's not just a HR platform. Sorry, it's not just a HR thing. It's not just an L&D thing. It's a business platform. So the key thing, as I said, is just try and work with the business early, get them engaged, get them warmed up, get them talking about the platform even before you go live with it. And they'll do the work for you. As I said, they'll do the work for you at the start, in the middle, and as I'm seeing it currently, they're actually now doing the work on the content, and they're owning the content and their specific areas in the platform as well.
Amazing. Wonderful. Well, look, thank you very much for your time today, Scott. I'm sure many people have benefited from that. So again, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Really appreciate it. I'm sure Scott wouldn't mind me saying, if anybody wants to reach out to you on LinkedIn and connect with you on LinkedIn, then you're welcome to do so. But yeah, thank you again, Scott. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we will see you again soon.
A pleasure. Thanks, Will.
Cheers.